Welcome to Hansik House, the podcast where we discuss the future of Korean culture. I'm one of your co-hosts, Michael Lee, and I'm joined by, of course...
Hi everyone, this is Ru Kim.
And everyone, first off, before we start anything, we want to thank all of you guys for checking out our first episode, tuning into this one this week.
Thank you.
We are overwhelmed by the amount of support and the engagement that has been pouring in all different outlets. And we feel great because we feel legitimized that this is a topic of concern that we need to talk about publicly. We need to have a platform for, and we need to engage you guys with, because it seems like there are so many ideas and areas of energy out there, and we want to bring all that together. We think there's so much opportunity here. There's so much of a positive future, and we are so excited to be in touch with all of you.
So for this episode, we want to open up by talking about the most hot issue out there in Korea that we can share with American culture too. Conan O'Brien's visit.
Conan O'Brien's visit.
And the Korean guy that Conan tagged along to Korea.
Oh,
Steven
yeah.
Yeun.
Oh, right. That guy. Right. Him. Because apparently nobody paid attention to Steven Yeun when he was there. And from my standpoint, I caught this right away. Steven Yeun, one of the most internationally recognized Korean entertainers, Korean actors, Korean people in the media spotlight. Good-looking guy, super talented, on one of the hottest TV shows of history, lands in Korea, doesn't get a second glance. Doesn't get nearly a fraction of the amount of attention that Conan O'Brien has. And I'm sitting there, as a Korean American myself, thinking, well, what the hell? What's going on? Why are people not engaging or want to be involved with Steven Yeun more than they are? Is it because they don't know about The Walking Dead? Is it because, and this is Yoon Hong's argument, he doesn't fit the image of an international media star? And so
Korean's perspective.
Exactly.
As a Korean person, if you expect a celebrity coming to Korea, Korean Peninsula, you imagine this 6 foot tall blonde guy or a blonde girl.
Yeah, the Leonardo DiCaprio's, the Angelina Jolie's,
that's a typical image. If
Brad
you're
Pitts.
having someone, not only celebrity, if you're having someone from abroad, especially America, the idea of American has to do with this image. Right. The identification of American image is associated with the physical attributes.
Right. And when you see someone like Steven Yeun come in,
yeah,
who doesn't meet that image, doesn't meet that, honestly, cookie cutter form, Koreans have a hard time knowing what to do with these kinds of people. Are they idols to the culture? He brought Steven Yeun along. His Korean friend. He expected Steven Yeun to be able to help integrate or understand a bit more of Korean culture.
If you watch the episode, when Steven Yeun is going around with Conan, Conan is expecting Steven Yeun to translate some of the Korean culture for him. That's why he brought Steven Yeun for the episode, right?
I would expect that to be the case.
I don't know if you have noticed or not while you're watching the episode. Conan was expecting Steven Yeun to know more about Korean culture, maybe.
About the food, about the history, about the context.
He kept on asking him questions. What does it mean? Can you translate it for me?
Oh, what is that food called?
There was a slight awkwardness.
Right. No, of course I've
Steven
noticed
Yeun.
it. I mean, I've experienced these kinds of things all the time too growing up. When I was young and I visited Korea and I didn't speak that much Korean, and other people didn't speak English at all at that time, it was very awkward.
Yeah.
And I had friends who would ask me about Korean culture. I'd bring them out to, let's say, a Korean barbecue, and they would ask me what this is. And I know because I ate those things, or my mom would make them, or whatever, but I had no idea how to describe
why
it or
they're
explain
eating
it.
it,
Exactly.
how they're making
What's the reasoning behind it?
Right.
And I really, really want to hear these stories from people listening. The second generation, the 1.5 generation who were born in Korea and grew up in the US or abroad. We all go through this. Because even though people expect us to be Korean, there is a very limited amount of knowledge that we absorb as we grow up outside of Korea. And that creates a very interesting tension shown perfectly by Steven Yeun going to that country, this international superstar who in reality cannot realistically say from either end that he is a Korean actor. And so when we say the word Korean American, whether you grew up here, you're born here, it means something. And for us, this hits the bigger question on the head. What do we mean? in terms of me as born and having grown up in the US, or you, Ryu, having come here for most of your education, almost over a third of your lifetime. For everyone listening who was born in the US, came from abroad, XYZ, what do we mean to Korea? Are we examples of Korean citizens? Are we examples of what Korean culture is capable of producing in terms of individuals? For us, that's the biggest question when it comes to the value of Korean culture all around the world, even between us as Koreans.
It's a very difficult topic, and we'll need your help as we go. But to a certain extent, I feel like Korean people only value our own success when it meets international standard, or the success is achieved in a very stereotypical way. But we are having a very hard time valuing our own success internally.
And this might be a hunch of mine, and we're going to talk about this more and more and more. I love you guys' ideas on this. People from Korea, even though we have successful sports players, comedians, actors, entertainers, everything in the rest of the world that we can point to and we can be proud of as the greater Korean culture, people from Korea have a hard time understanding and recognizing why that it is their culture's success, right? When Steven Yeun becomes an international star in Hollywood, outside of Korea, where if he were born and grew up in Korea, he probably would not have achieved that amount of success. Is that an example of a Korean making it out in the world?
Yeah, I don't understand why Steven Yeun is not as recognized as Nicolas Cage's Korean American wife.
Right.
And do you remember the golf player, Michelle Wee? So every time she does well in this world stage,
on the LPGA tour. Right?
Yes, Korean people, 한국 사람들 in Korea, we go crazy. We go very passionate about reporting her.
And she was born in Hawaii. She grew up in the US. She didn't spend any time in Korea.
Her name is Michelle. But Korean people get so excited every time she does really well in this world stage. But I feel like why a person like Steven Yeun is already really successful and established actor in American context.
More people know who Steven Yeun is than they will ever know who Michelle Wee is.
Exactly. But why are we having such a hard time recognize Steven Yeun?
And a lot of other public Korean figures.
Right.
In the same way that we recognize Michelle Wee. Is it because of Korea's interest in golfing over acting? What makes Korean, as the bubble of Korean society, more engaged in certain aspects of certain people than not?
My personal opinion is that Michelle Wee, every time she does well, she gets reported at a world stage. Her success is recognized at world scale. So Korean people becomes very proud, saying, "Oh, this Korean is doing so well in this world stage."
So, Ryu, do you think that if the world didn't recognize Michelle Wee, then Korea would not recognize Michelle Wee? Do you think it happens that way? Explain to the viewers the look that you're giving me right now. Because it's a very difficult truth. If someone's not famous and recognized at the world scale, look at Psy. Psy is the perfect example of the most famous Korean to ever break out onto the international scene. When Psy was a rapper in Korea, some people liked him, some people didn't. And even when Gangnam Style came out, right? Everyone remembers the song Gangnam Style from, 5 years back? When that came out, first in Korea, everyone was like, yeah, whatever, it's another Psy song, like Champion. And then when it started getting millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of views on YouTube, people creating parody dances and stuff like that, it blew up. And I remember at the time, Koreans, for the most part, were thinking, what's going on here? Why? Why do they even care about Psy?
Yeah, why is it not JYP's Wonder Girls? Why is it Psy, right?
Why is it Psy? Psy didn't even really intend for it to go out international like that.
Exactly.
And now when you walk down streets in Gangnam, when you walk around areas, they still reference Psy's Gangnam Style in commercials, in aspects of the culture.
It's Gangnam's logo, part of their
I think they have a statue of him now, right? In Gangnam?
Every time they have a new development in Gangnam, they would cover it up with one of the Psy's icon and some other stuff too.
Even though that song was 5 or 6 years ago now. Why? Why can we not be proud and supportive of our culture without anybody else?
Without any worldwide recognition.
Yeah, why is that the case? And it's really, really frustrating to me. Because now, and I encourage everyone to do this right now, I did this for the first time a couple days ago. I Googled Korean American. And there's a Wikipedia page where they list all of the significant Korean Americans that have made big contributions in their respective fields. And Korean Americans have only been here for almost 2 generations now? That's it. for the past 50 or 60 years at
Right.
most. And there is a laundry list of politicians, of musicians, of entertainers, of different kind of cultural, political, social,
All
economic
diverse
leaders. And I was blown away. People who have
sure.
set milestones in America, not just within the Asian community, within America as a whole. And I started going through all the lists. Some of the people you can probably recognize right now, like along Steven Yeun, you have people like Daniel Dae Kim, Ken Jeong, Bobby Lee, comedians and actors who are in our face all the time. They're Korean Americans. And yet, I don't think a single person in Korea knows their name or even knows their face. Compare Steven Yeun coming to Korea with Tom Hiddleston. When he came to Korea, guys, Google and YouTube the videos of when Tom Hiddleston came or when Hugh Jackman came.
Right.
People go nuts. They're crying, they're screaming, they're going absolutely bat crazy over these people.
They cannot get out of the airport for like 4 to 5 hours. So the idea of having Western celebrities has to do with the physical attributes that they have. The typical,
That is very true.
blonde, brownish haired, very tall, glamorous,
Right.
that image.
And we all know to a certain extent that Korean society at this point in its history and culture values the objective things very highly, objective physical things. And to this point, they have, in our view, attributed success to physical attributes, to specs, to stats and what people look like or how they present themselves.
Do you think that has to do with the reason why when we expect Americans and a Korean American comes out, we don't know what to do with it? Is that the reason why?
Everybody knows the movie Harold and Kumar. John Cho,
Oh
one of
my
the
God,
main
yes.
characters, one of the most recognizable actors today. We all know who he is. We grew up with his movies.
Right.
He is Korean American. His father grew up during the Korean War and he's from North Korean territory. We can look at him and say, hell yeah, man, you're Korean American. You worked your way up in this entertainment industry that is notoriously racist and has such segregation. You've made it and you can represent in some way the cultural power, the intellect, the energy of Koreans or Asians or anybody else like that. He is a shining example. And yet, nobody in Korea knows who John Cho is. Nobody does. Why is that?
So what do you guys think? Why are we having such a hard time recognizing this successful people and recognize their process of success and their stories in Korean context?
And why do we care? I know this is kind of getting a bit frustrating for us and you too as well.
Yeah.
But why do we care so much about international success or international celebrities or people who are recognized abroad more so than cultivating our own culture, our own citizens, or people who hold Korean blood on our home turf? Why do we spend so much time within Korea, the government or companies or pop culture? Why do we spend so much time focusing and idolizing international success, Western success, worldwide success over the capabilities and the talents in all different kinds of fields when it comes to Korean people? In Korea, out of Korea. Why can't we recognize that from the get-go and encourage it? This is frustrating because it almost seems as if our country is willingly, our culture is willingly putting ourselves on a lower rank compared to American culture. My heart is pumping right now because we know for damn sure that that's not true. We know in the US that people are going crazy over Korean food, crazy over Korean music, crazy over Korean media. Why? Yet still, at this point, the 13th largest economy in the world, one of the biggest pop and culture presences in the world, why are we not prouder? Why are we not stronger? Why are we not pushing our culture to the limit? And why are we still drooling over the tallest white guy that comes through the airport doors of Incheon?
So please tell us what you're doing, what you're studying, what you want to become, if it's a politician or a businessman, or you're trying to open up a restaurant or other things that you are now able to do that your parents weren't able to. Now that we are living with this international resources and context, and also we are not so constrained by these Korean traditional values anymore. And this goes for all over the world. It's not just about Korean Americans. It could be Korean Australians, it could be Korean Filipinos. There must be stories that we should know about, that we should be really proud of, how our culture is manifesting around the world. I think it's a new thing, how Koreans abroad are becoming very successful because now that we have Koreans all over the world that are considered as their own people, are becoming successful, this is new concept for Korea historically.
In the end, we're trying to create a value of Korean culture that everyone can respect, that we can respect internally, that others can respect from the outside. But in order to create value, we need to have the resource of value, the resources to point to and say, look, we can do this. We are proud of this. This is us. And we all know the age-old stereotype that Asian parents, Asian families, that Asian culture only values very economic decisions or very certain career paths. Yet we've seen our culture or people associated with our culture in a way break out into every major industry, become leaders in all those industries. And yet we still have not yet built up that value that Koreans abroad, that Koreans within the country, that younger generations can pursue anything they want. And we can make that a shining center point on the world stage. And this goes both ways. We want Korea, mainstream Korean culture, mainstream Korean society, to recognize and to encourage the growth of a new generation of cultural leaders all over the world, not just within Korea, not just outside of Korea, everywhere. But it's also because my generation, us, people who have grown outside of Korea for the first time in Korean history. Korea has been around for 5,000 years. And we are the first generation, for the most part, to grow up outside of Korea. We have to begin to think about, discuss, and come up with ways that we can connect ourselves back to Korea. That our success from a young age, from our education, our motivations, our pursuits in life, are able to make Korean people proud, are able to mobilize younger people in Korea who are stuck in this very hierarchical system. I think we have that opportunity here to create the value that will make Koreans proud. But in order to do that, we have to figure out for ourselves, okay, what about us makes us Korean? What can we be proud about? What can we point to? What can we reference? What can we learn about that makes us Korean X? Korean Americans, Korean Australians, Korean Filipinos, Korean Vietnamese, Korean Germans, Korean Italians, Korean Brazilians, Korean Argentinians, Korean Russians, everywhere. This is a global new phenomenon, and we have the opportunity to figure this out and to understand how we can all, every single one of us listening, whether you work in whatever field, can become a thought leader and push a bit of the value that we grew up on. We definitely grew up on these values and these cultural things that push us in certain ways or another. We have to figure out how exactly we can articulate that and share them with one another.
Everyone listening to this, we love to hear your stories. While you're listening to this, you might have your own answers, theories, hypotheses, why we are doing this in that way. Please share your stories. This is Rukim and Michael Lee signing off from Hansik House.
Looking for a new Korean future together.